Couldn't start transcribing, starting recording. Okay. That's interesting. But the recording is going. So, yeah.
I don't think your accent was that bad, Matt.
It's that Mancunian accent, and also I'm a little sick as well. So, welcome everyone to the Power Platform and D365 UK UG Manchester edition. This time we are coming to you virtually. Let's move this. We're coming to you virtually. This is our first session of the year. Yay! We are really excited to be back. It's been a little while since we've done a UG, not since last year. That was so long ago now. So we're really excited to be back. We have two amazing speakers tonight who have a couple of very drastically different topics, but it seems to be topics that people are interested in because there's quite a number of people here today. So we are excited to have everyone here and excited to have our speakers. So what we're going to do is we've got some agenda. We've got an agenda here, some introductions. We've got Power Platform Pipelines versus ALM Accelerator by Nati Turtledove. Something that is really interesting and a really hot topic right now. We're going to have a short break, more of a comfort break, because we want to give you guys some of your evening. And then we have the fantastic Ines Urrutia de Souza doing Microsoft Viva. And I'm hoping that I did better at your name pronunciation this time than last time.
Oh, you did it great. Surprisingly great. Congratulations.
Keep trying. I need to get back to Duolingo and carry on with my Spanish lessons, of which I will hit you up to then start practicing Spanish with me, I'm afraid, Anna. So you just have my bad English and bad Spanish. So first and foremost, we want to thank all of our sponsors. Without the sponsors of our national user group and all the individual user groups, we would not be able to bring such amazing sessions to you. All of these sponsors, Flip Dimensions, Avanade, Cloud9 Insights, DQ Global, Experian, and Power Objects HCL all fund our UG and allow us to do various activities and allow us to bring all these events to you. So big thank you to them. If you're not familiar with them, please go check them out. If you are familiar with them, please go check them out anyway, because they are just awesome. And we really appreciate all their support that they give to all the UGs in the UK. Upcoming events. We do have a number of upcoming events. I believe all these ones are in person. So we've got the Reading UG on the 25th. So if you're in Reading, I think Carl Cookson, one of my colleagues, Cookie, and Chris Huntingford are giving a talk at the Reading UG. There may be another one as well, I'm not sure. We also have the Birmingham UG on the same night. So if you're in Reading, go to the Reading one. If you're in Birmingham, go to the Birmingham one. There's loads of different options. We also have a event in Cambridge on the 7th of February, and we also have our main Q1 day event in Reading on February 22nd, which is a whole day event. I believe the speakers, the call speakers is now closed maybe, so speakers are probably going to be announced soon and the schedule is going to be announced soon, but all those events are always awesome. The local events are in the evening, so it's easy to attend. The full day events, you have multi-tracks, multiple experts, fantastic day. You should absolutely check that out if you have time in February. You can also go to our website there to have a look at our entire schedule of all the upcoming events. So it's d365ppug.com/events. Get involved. We're always looking for new speakers. This actually I think goes through to like the main committee. So loads of and there's one from Dan there on the 23rd of February. He needs to get that one in for the Southwest user group. You should absolutely check that one out if you're in the area on the 23rd of Feb as well. If you would like to get involved in speaking, you can absolutely fill out this form and come and join the fun, just like Anna and Nati are. You can also reach out to anyone as well. So if you want to reach out to people like me and Joe and Dan or other people, we can get you in contact with the right people and get you on get you on the schedule for an upcoming event. So please get involved. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Nati Turtledove. He is a solutions lead. He is going to give us a talk on Power Platform pipelines versus ALM versus the ALM Accelerator.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. Let me share my screen pretty quickly. There we go. You able to see it?
Looks good.
Perfect. So yeah, my name is Nati Turtledove. I'm a solutions lead for Cloud to a BCM Group company. And just a bit about me quickly. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa. I have been developing in the Power Platform for close to 6 years now. I started in the data side with SQL and Power BI and slowly migrated over to the rest of the Power Platform products. And nowadays I primarily focus on Power Apps, Power Automate, and some ALM with some governance and standards. So that brings us to ALM with Power Platform Pipelines and the Accelerator. The agenda for this kind of topic is just to briefly describe what ALM and Application Lifecycle Management is, and then touch base on the two products, the ALM Accelerator by the Power Cat team, as well as the new Power Platform Pipelines preview feature within Power Platform. Following those two demos, we're going to look at the key takeaways, the pros and cons of each feature, just do a quick comparison and decide which route to take for your kind of business requirements, followed by a quick Q&A session, for which I hope I've got some answers, not 100% sure. But getting straight into it, what is application lifecycle management? So it consists of a variety of things. Starting with, it's a process to manage projects through a phased approach, such as having a specific environment for specific stages. Whereas we've got a development environment, a test environment, a user acceptance one, a QA, and a product environment. It's also migrating these solutions through deployment phase to these specific environments using various types of pipelines or import functions. And it's also having stuff like source controls or version controls for these solutions. Other type of ALM processes include having some sort of development standards that developers should adhere to, and some sort of governance on top of how you do develop, and having a peer review process to ensure that you follow those guidelines, as well as being able to then upgrade and update solutions through a real streamlined process without affecting what's in production. The ALM basics in terms of your environments, and this is the concept I'm going to be following today with today's presentations, is really simple. We've got a development environment, a QA, quality assurance, a UAT for user acceptance testing, and a production environment. And the idea is we start with an unmanaged solution in our development environment. When we're ready to kind of push that through to QA for some peer review to ensure that's up to standards, we'll import it accordingly either through pipelines or import function to QA as a managed solution. Once that passes those steps, we can then go through straight to UAT and following the same process to production. And then we've got a nice managed structure of unmanaged to managed solutions following a decent version control. And at any point, we can then go back to a development environment and go to version 1.2, whilst ensuring that version 1.1 in prod stays unaffected from any changes we're going to be making. This can expand further into more complex ALM strategies, such as having various companies involved. For instance, I've got a company in United Kingdom, South Africa, England, following specific ALM processes within each tenant and each company, such as having your dev, QA, UAT, and testing over there. So covering the basics of ALM, let's look into the ALM Accelerator on its own. What is the ALM Accelerator? Well, it's a solution built by the Power Cat team that forms part of the COE starter kit. And a big emphasis on the word starter kit. It's not an out-of-the-box solution that's meant to be used in production as a resale solution. It's something that's a foundation for us to build on and expand on for ourselves, something to tailor to meet our requirements. The ALM Accelerator as of now consists of two primary applications, starting with a Canvas app, which is used for makers to actually drive the ALM processes for configuring their solutions for deployment and deploying across multiple environments. And then a model-driven app specific for admins, where we can create project profiles for the solutions and so forth. What's nice about it is it integrates with Azure DevOps as well. So through the admin model-driven app, we can actually create Azure DevOps projects and manage our repositories, our pipelines, our service connections, all through that model-driven app. And we've got a streamlined tool now for managing our projects as well as deploying them across various pipelines. And again, the last point is it's very scalable because it's the starter kit. We've got the ability to build on it and expand on it to kind of meet our business requirements. So how do we set it up? It's not that simple, although they do provide some incredible documentation. So once we've imported the solution file into our host environment, we need to configure our dev environment. So for today's purpose, we're going to configure a development environment, a validation, test, and prod environment. Once we've done that, I've been practicing this word all day. We need to ensure we've got Azure DevOps parallelisms for our pipelines. And you can either register these for free through a grant, or if you've got licensing already for it, amazing. Once we've done that, we need to go to Azure AD and create a new Azure app registration that will be used for the ALM solution. And within that ALM, or within app registration, we're going to then create new app permissions for Azure DevOps, Dynamic CRM, and Power Apps Advisor. We're then going to grant admin consent for those permissions and then head over to our client secrets and create a new one. We're going to copy both the client secret and the client value, as well as our application ID, our Azure DevOps ID, and our tenant ID for later use. Once you've copied that, we're going to head over to just redirecting the app registration to a URL. We're going to grant a Power Apps management in our tenant through PowerShell. And that's simply running a bit of a PowerShell script that they provided the documentation and entering your application ID into it. And then we're going to install 2 or 3 DevOps extensions, one being the Power Platform build tools in order to unpack and repack our solutions for our deployments, and then one called our replace tokens in order for our pipelines to replace these tokens for secure and private configuration. Once those are installed, we need to go into every single environment that are going to be used in our ALM process, and we need to create an app registration user for these environments. Then lastly, with those IDs that we saved before, we need to go into our custom connector that comes with the ALM solution and just update the IDs in it and make sure that it works. And that's going to connect us to our DevOps projects. Once that's all set up, we can begin our demo. Now, the reason why I've got a pre-recorded demo over here is because the pipelines can take 5 minutes to run. And because we're running quite a few of them, I don't think we've got that additional 20 to 30 minutes to watch them run. And I was a bit worried about us not having power and internet. So we can pause them and talk through them while we go through. So within our Power Platform host, we are going to go to our admin application, which is a model driven, and we're going to head over to Azure DevOps. In our development section, we've just got a few user profiles, users and access controls over there. We're going to select our DevOps organization, and we're going to select new and project wizard, where we're going to go through the process of creating a new application. So we're going to call this one our COVID-19 app, give it a description, and we're going to hit next. Over here, we've got the ability to then decide whether we want to install the ALM Accelerator's pipeline templates into the new repo within our DevOps projects, or if you want to use existing pipelines from another project for the specific project as well. So for argument's sake, I'm just going to install new ones in our repository. We're going to hit on next. And at this point, we're going to be asked now to select the environments that we're going to use for our ALM process, and then fill in all those client keys that we stored earlier with the tenant ID, the client key, the client ID, which is our application ID, and then the client secret, which is badly named over here. It should be actually the client value, the client secret value that we saved. We're then going to share this with all our pipelines, so our pipelines can access our app registration, and we can see that it's added our service connections for there, and we're going to hit next. And it's just going to validate those service connections against the credentials that we've typed in. Once we've completed that, it's going to create the generic pipelines, and we can complete our project creation. So once we complete it, if we look to the middle of the page where it says projects, that's still saving. You can click on our COVID app, and we can see the members assigned to the DevOps project, our pipelines, the repositories that are created with it, and the service connections. And better, if we click on our repo that we created, our COVID-19 app repo, and we click on the View button, it will take us directly to the Azure DevOps repository for that new project. Now, what's important to note over here is right now we've only got one branch for our repo, and that's main, and that's because we're going to create further branches using the ALM Accelerator later on. So now that we've created our project, let's head back over to our environment and go through to our ALM Accelerator for our Power Platform, which is our Canvas app. So if we open it up, it will load all our solutions within a specific selected environment, and we can change our environment by going to the top and selecting what environment we want to deal with. We're going to deal with Sandbox right now. And as of now, I've currently got 2 solutions that are following the ALM process, and you can see our budget app and clock components can be interacted with. They're editable, whereas our COVID app is not editable. We can't configure it as of yet, and that's because we haven't selected a profile for it, which means we haven't defined what repository it's going to use and what project it's going to use. So we can either select an existing one, which would be not good because we don't want to use those projects, but we'll create a new one and we'll select our DevOps organization, our solution project, and our solution repository, and we'll hit create. And now this will start assigning the profile to our solution now, and it will allow us to then assign the environments we want to use for our ALM process. So for our validation environment, we're going to use our internal QA. For our test environment, we're going to use our internal UAT. And for our production environment, we're going to use internal prod, and we're going to hit save. And once that's complete, we'll be able to actually configure our solution. You can see it's editable now. We can also go directly into the solution from the app over here. And when we hit configure, it's going to load all the solution dependencies and objects that are hosted in our internal sandbox. And it's going to give us the ability to actually configure them, such as variables, connections, etc., per environment that we've selected, such as our validation, test, and prod, as well as being able to upgrade if necessary. So we can select connection references, we can pre-configure environment variables, we can pre-configure who the apps are shared within the solution. And the reason why I'm sharing it with my org right now as a can view and can share is because when we created the app registration user in each environment, we'll notice that later on that the ALM Accelerator, when deploying to environments, it auto assigns the app owner to that app user. And in order for us to access it and share it, we want it to be shared with the company. We can create group teams as well and edit our flow connections and custom connections. When ready, we can click on save and we can begin our first commit. Now, if you're familiar with any sort of source control, if you're just committing to a source branch, so we'll say commit, and then we've got various options over here to create a new branch. Now, what this will do is based off our main branch, which was empty within our repository, it's going to copy that and create a new one with our current logged in user, followed by our project name, specifically for our dev branch, where our commit action is now going to unpackage our solution into that branch. And that's going to use the pipeline templates that we installed into our repository. So once we've scheduled our first commit, we can see it's got a little clock there to show that it's running. And if we hit on the arrow, we can see we've got a commit solution and our destination is going through to our development branch. And if we hit on the clock, it will take us directly through to that pipeline job. And if we go to that job, we can see that it's busy running now. And just to save us 5 minutes, I've paused the video and I have resumed it after it ran successfully, and it ran at 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Just to make sure that it successfully ran, we can go to pipelines, we can see it ran perfectly fine. And what this is going to do, it's going to unpack the solution into our newly created dev branch. And it's also going to create a new branch called COVID-19 Access Control over the project name. And that branch is going to be specifically used as our test branch. So when we deploy from our QA environment to our test environment, which will come a bit later on. But if we head over to our dev environment right now, we can go look at our source control, go through our folder structure, and very similar to the CLI using DevOps, not DevOps, VS Code or the CLI on its own, we can see it unpackaged our solution into our repository there, and we can even see our commits as well. And our commits been successful. So if we head over back into our ALM Accelerator, we can now deploy the solution into our QA environment. We've done our commits, we've got our test, we've got our dev branch. Let's commit now. Let's create a pipeline to go deploy to QA. And that's what we're going to do. So we create our title deploy to QA, and we're going to create a source branch we're going to set to our current dev branch, and our target branch is going to be our test branch that it also created. And the reason why we're going to do that is because when we say create, it's going to trigger two actions. It's going to trigger a pipeline to deploy the solution from our dev environment to our internal QA environment first. And it's also going to create a pull request for us to merge our dev branch with our test branch later on. So you can see we've got two actions running over here, one being the deployment to QA. And if we go into our DevOps project, we can see our pipeline's busy running there. Let's pause it again and resume it. And 5 minutes and 21 seconds later, it's run successfully. Make sure we can go to our pipelines, all is good. And if we head over to our internal UAT environment now, internal QA environment, my apologies, we can see that our solution was created 2 minutes ago. And just note the version over there, version 1.0.2, followed by a sequence of numbers. That will be discussed later on when we do the comparisons. But if we go into our solution now, we can also notice that the owner of the app is set to our ALM Accelerator service principal. And that's why when we did the configuration setup, we assigned our environment tenants to be able to actually view and share the application as well. So if we open our app and view it, we can see that it's working perfectly fine, and we successfully deployed from our dev environment to our QA environment. Now, following other ALM processes, we've done our QA. The solution meets our development standards. We're ready to go into test. So we can click on our little clock there. It will take us through to our pull requests in our repository. And we can also view the commits and the files over here, which we'll look at a bit later on at when we do our final pull request, just to make sure that there's no conflicts. When we say complete, we've got the option to also delete our dev branch, which we will do for now. You don't have to do it. The reason why we deleted it is because at any other point when you want to go back to your dev environment and redeploy to QA, you can just create a new one, or other developers can create one in their name. So what this is going to do when we complete, it's going to merge our dev branch to our test branch. And it's also going to trigger a new pipeline to then deploy the solution from UAT to our from QA to our UAT environment. And we can also see all our source code over here to ensure that there were no issues with it, conflicts. So our pipeline is running, and it's busy deploying it from our QA to our UAT environment. We're going to pause it again, and it ran successfully. It's very exciting when these things run successfully. The amount of times that it fails, it's so horrible. If we go into our repository and we go into our branches, you notice that our dev branch has been removed. But if we go into our test branch, we've got our source control sitting really nice and comfy in there. And if we just dive into it a bit more, our source controls all there, our app details are there. Perfect. So we've literally now deployed from our QA to our UAT environment. And if you go and look at it in our UAT, we head over to our solutions. We can see, again, it was created 2 minutes ago with a real funky version over there. Our owner, once again, is set to our ALM Accelerator server principal. And if we go into our application and we try play it, it should ask us for our to allow for the service connections, and it should allow us to play it. Let's give that a shot. Awesomeness. So our app is functioning within our UAT environment. So post the UAT environment now, and we've run all our user scripts. We've done a UAT. Our user stories match up. We've got no bugs. We're ready to go into prod. We'll head over to our ALM Accelerator. Let's just refresh to make sure that that blue clock turns into a green tick, because that always makes us happy. Perfect. So we've got a green tick there. And just to go over what this information is over here, just the timeline. We first started with our initial commit, which created a new branch and packaged it into that branch over there, into our dev branch. And it also created a test branch, which we'll use for our test deployment. We then deployed to our QA environment, and then completed a pull request and merged our dev branch into test. And our deployment went from internal QA to internal UAT. And now that we're ready to go to prod, we can say deploy solution, give it a title, and now we can decide what source branches we're going to use. So we're going to use our source branch as our test, and we're going to merge into main. And that's going to be where our prod source code lives. So if we say commit there, all this is going to do, it's going to trigger a pull request. So if we go into our details and the clock to go into our repo and pull requests, we can see that there's no merge conflicts. We can ensure that we've got no conflicts with our source code over here as well. And when ready, we can just say complete. Notice how we can't delete our test branch over here, as that branch will continuously be used through our ALM process when you're going from dev to test consistently. So we can't delete it. Once we've merged it though, we'll have a successful merge. It will trigger another pipeline job to start deploying the solution from our UAT environment to our prod environment. And you can see it's busy running over here. Pause a long 4.5 minutes of deployment. And 5 minutes later, we've successfully deployed into our internal production environment. And if you head over to our repository as well, we can go into our main branch and we can see that our source control is all living there now as well. And if we just break down all the folders, just to make sure it's there, we can see our app assets are all living over there right now. So we've successfully deployed using the pipelines to our internal products. If you go to our internal product environment, again, go to solutions, version control. Yeah, that's out of it. It's a managed solution. We'll go into it. Owner's still the ALM Accelerator. And if we hit play, we should be prompted with allowing our connections, and we should be able to access the app. Let's click on play and let it load. Awesomeness. We've gone straight from dev to QA to UAT to prod. And it's all done through the ALM Accelerator application from the ALM Maker point of view, which is really simple to use. Even if you've got little to no idea in terms of source control, just the basics of using the application to get there is really straightforward. And you can just see the pipeline really simple over here, going from dev into test, going from our QA to UAT, merging with main into prod. We've had a full successful deployment, and you can see our entire process has been complete. And at any other time, we can go back and commit more code to it and create a new dev branch and start from the beginning if needed. So there's limitless ends to how we can use the ALM Accelerator. Let's break down how it works step by step. So taking in our 4 environments into hand, we're starting off with our Power Platform with an unmanaged solution in there. Using the ALM Accelerator, we're then initializing our first commit to our repository, into our project, and this is going to trigger 2 actions. We're going to create our dev branch and our test branch, and we're going to unpack the solution into our dev branch as well. When ready, we're going to then deploy our solution again through the ALM Accelerator into our QA environment. And what that's going to do is going to create a pull request, and it's going to deploy the solution through a pipeline as a managed solution into our QA environment. Following that, when ready again, we've surpassed our quality checks. We can then merge that pull request, and it will merge our dev branch into our test branch. And at the same time, it will deploy our solution into our UAT environment. Once our UAT is complete, our user stories are successful, no bugs on our board, we can then create a pull request through our ALM Accelerator again, and this will just create the pull request in our repository, which will merge. We can merge then from test into main, which will then trigger the pipeline job to then lastly deploy as a managed solution into our production environment. And that kind of underlines the basics of how the process works with the ALM Accelerator. Now let's just summarize it up pretty quickly. The nice thing about the ALM Accelerator is that we can efficiently link our solutions to DevOps projects and user stories through this process. So we can link our code to user stories, we can pull up bugs, we can pull up features, etc., or through a managed process. And what's nice is that it's a real nice front-end ALM solution that allows us to deploy them across various environments through a decent UI experience. It's also a really refined ALM process. You know that you're going from dev to QA to UAT to test with 2 or 3 branches, which is really, really resourceful. And because of that, you've got a real structured DevOps source control as well, which can also be used outside of DevOps and outside the ALM Accelerator, such as integrating with VS Code, doing commits from there. And again, as we said, because it's part of the starter kit, we can scale the ALM Accelerator to fit our requirements and our business needs. And that kind of covers the ALM Accelerator and how we would use it in the real world. moving over to the Power Platform pipelines, also a preview feature. What are the Power Platform pipelines? Well, it's a preview feature that now exists within the Power Platform following an ALM process, and it's our Dynamics 365 application that allows for cross-environment deployment. When you do install the application into your host environment, it consists of one model-driven app for configuration, which allows you to configure your environments and your deployment stages and pipelines. And lastly, it simplifies an ALM process for makers to actually deploy a solution within a solution to various environments with little to no experience in ALM. And you can assign various, you can find, it also comes with two pipeline security roles, your pipeline user and your pipeline administrator, which is also really, really great. Okay, setting it up, you can see is a lot less complicated than the ALM Accelerator. Similar to that, though, you need to configure your 4 development environments, which we have, and we'll just grab the environment IDs as well. And because it's part of the ALM Power Platform suite, we do need to enable managed environments for those specific development environments. Once we've got our environment IDs, we're going to then install the Power Platform Pipelines application in our host prod under D365 applications, and then we can assign our security roles accordingly to the appropriate users. Once we're done with that, we can actually begin our demo on the Power Platform pipelines. So again, similar to the ALM Accelerator, it's just a pre-recorded one just because of the duration of the pipelines. So you can see that we've installed the Power Platform Pipelines app in our D365 applications in our internal production environment. And we're going to open up our deployment pipeline configuration model-driven app. And this consists of 2 sections. We've got our 3 sections, our overview, which is the dashboard. We've got our pipeline setup and our deployments. Right now, we're going to go to our pipeline setups, and we're going to go to environments where we're going to start adding our environments. Now, I've already pre-created it, but all you need to do is say new. We'll add a name to our environment, and then we need to select an environment type. Now, we've got 2 options. We've got a development environment and a target environment. And the difference is, if you're going to be using a development environment to build your application, your solution, then it's going to be selected as your development environment. Whereas a target environment will be something like your QA, UAT, or prod, something you're going to be deploying from development to. So for our internal sandbox, we're using our development environment, and for the rest, we're using targeted. And then we need to paste in our environment ID into it. And once we hit save, that validation status should hopefully change to success. Once we've got all our environments saved, we can head over to our pipeline section and we can create a new pipeline. So we'll hit new, we'll give a pipeline a name, we'll call it test pipeline, and we'll hit save, and then we can then go configure our development environments and our stages. So if we go to the bottom, we can see we can link our development environment. So because our internal sandbox is our primary development environment, we're going to select internal sandbox and we'll add it there. And then we're going to select our stages. We're going to start building them. So this is going to be the stages of how your ALM process builds out. So we're going from dev to QA, and that's going to be called our quality assurance stage. And because there's no previous stage but our development environment to QA, we're going to leave our previous development stage blank. But our target environment is going to be our internal QA. And we're going to save and close and do pretty much the same thing for our UAT and for our prod. So we're going to call this stage user acceptance testing. But because it's post our QA, our previous deployment stage is going to be called quality assurance, and our target is going to be called internal UAT. Again, save and close and do the same thing for production. So let's add one more for a production. Our previous development stage would be our UAT, and our target environment would be prod. Perfect. Save and close, and literally that's it. We've configured a pipeline for us to use within our solutions. That's how we create a pipeline. So if we head over now to our internal sandbox environment, we're going to be working with our KPI management tool, and we are working with an unmanaged solution at version 1.0.0.1. If we open up the solution and we look to the far left, we can see we've got the pipelines feature now. If we open that up, we've got a nice little drop down where we can select our pipeline. And if you select our test pipeline, it's going to bring us a nice process of how we can deploy from dev to UAT, to QA, UAT, and production. So right now, our solution is sitting at 1.0.0.1, and it's nicely named as well. It's got our stage name called quality assurance, and underneath it, it's got our environments as well, internal QA, user acceptance testing, internal UAT, and so forth. But when we're ready, we'll say deploy here. We're going to deploy from our dev to UAT, to QA. We'll select our target environments. And now what this is going to do, it's going to look into our solution dependencies again and find any service connections that need to be configured or signed into before the deployment. So it's found two. It's going to update them now. It's going to be a SharePoint one and I think an Office 365 one. And there we go. It's signing in. You can see the SharePoint one's got a green tick, so that's successfully signed into a user account. And we can even decide what account we wanted to use. And then we've got two green ticks. When we're ready, we can go to next. We can fill in any environment variables necessary. We can configure any group teams and so forth. And we can say next. And now what I'm doing over here is because we're deploying directly from dev to QA, we've got the ability to change what version we're going to be deploying. Now, because we want to keep our version static over our first deployment across dev, QA, UAT, and prod, we're going to change it to version 1.0.0.1 because we're going to be using version 2 of it later on to show how we can manage a version 1 in production. So we'll say deploy, and this is going to let our pipeline run. So we're going to pause it right now because it may take a couple of minutes. And you can see it successfully deployed. Our latest successful version sitting in QA is version 1.0.0.1. It deployed a few seconds ago. And now we've got the ability to deploy it into UAT as well. But if we wanted to go redeploy into our QA, such as we've got a version 2 available already, click on deploy here again. If we'll relook at all the object dependencies, put in all the service connections. And once it does that, we'll see it's going to change the version control. You can see it's updating it to version 2 already because it knows that version 1 is taken. So let's discard that. And we're going to deploy now to our user acceptance testing. So very similar to our QA, it's going to ask us for our deployment target. We say next. It's going to, again, look for all the dependencies for our service connections and make sure that they're either signed in, they're updated. So it's going to find those two again. It's going to find the SharePoint one and the Office 365 one. Looking. Amazing. We're waiting for that last tick. And we've got two green ticks. We say next. We can complete our environment variable again. And we'll call it turts. And we'll say, and we can see over here, our version is staying static across our dev, QA, and UAT now as version 1.0.0.1. So let's deploy. And while that's deploying, let's go have a look in our QA environment to make sure that our solution deployed successfully. So if we head over to our internal QA, we've got our solutions. We can see our KPI management app deployed 2 minutes ago as version 1.0.0.1. So it matched our version exactly as a managed solution. And if we go into it, we'll see that because I deployed the solution, I'm therefore the owner as well. So we're not using any app registration users as the owner. And if you go into our app, which I must click there, let's click on play. We should be prompted again to allow the service connections, and it should take us into a working app. Allow service connections. And there we go. We're in our KPI management app. So we've successfully deployed straight from our dev to QA using the Power Platform Pipelines feature within the solution itself. So while we were testing that out, our UAT one is still running. So let's pause and go back to it. And we can see it's successfully deployed again, version 1.0.0.1 a few seconds ago. And again, we've got the ability to revert back to a QA for a version 2 if needed, or go straight through to prod when we're ready. So we're going to go deploy to prod now, following the same process. Select the target environment. It's going to look at the solution dependencies, bring through those two service connections and sign them in. And hopefully while that runs, we'll go have a look at our UAT environment to make sure that our solution came through. We're waiting for two green ticks. And next, and we'll enter our variable, call it test, next, and our version staying the same as version 1.0.0.1. And we'll click on deploy. While that's deploying, let's head over to UAT. And in our UAT solutions, we've got solution version 1.0.0.1 as a managed solution. We go into it, owner still remains myself because I deployed it. And if we click on play, we should be prompted to allow the service connections and actually play with the application. And there we go. Allow. Perfect. We successfully deployed from QA to UAT. And let's pause again. And our pipeline to prod has successfully completed. We've gone from dev, QA, UAT to prod now. And we can see it's sitting at version 1.0.0.1, which is great. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to now redeploy to QA. We've got a version 1.0.0.2 available now. And let's quickly deploy to a QA again, and then we'll come back to our prod environment to go ensure the solution was there. And because it's already pre-configured all the dependencies before and the environment variable, it's going to skip all of that stuff now because there's no changes to it. So it's going to identify we're going to deploy version 1.0.0.2. We're going to click on deploy. And while that's running, we're going to head back over to our internal prod. And we can see we're still going to be maintaining a version 1.0.0.1 in production. So there we go. Created 1 minute ago as 1.0.0.1 as a managed solution sitting in production. Head over to the solution. Owners myself, let's play it. We should be prompted again for the connections. And it's really that simple using the pipelines in these solutions. And what's great is that you've got a specific pipeline embedded into the solution itself. So you're not going through an app to see all your solutions. You're going into a solution and then doing the deployment from within the solution itself. So our app worked fine, worked great, and our deployment is still running. So let's just pause that and refresh it again. And you can see we've got version 1.0.0.2 sitting in our QA. And we can then deploy it to UAT as well, but UAT and prod still remain at 1.0.0.1, following a real stable ALM process. So we can head over to our QA just to make sure that it works, just for argument's sake. And let's head over to QA. Again, we can redeploy in there. And let's go to QA solutions. And we can see that our version control is version 1.0.0.2. And that's how we've successfully deployed from a dev, QA, UAT, and production. Now, what's really great about the Power Platform Pipelines feature as well is that within the configuration app, we've got a nice little dashboard where we can actually view our deployments to what environments we're going to as well. We can view a bit of details on our run history to see who's deploying what solution when into what environment, what the version control is. And one of the best features, I think is the best feature, is that we've got our solution artifacts stored in it as well, which means based on our version control, we can go into the artifact and download our solutions zip file and re-import it into another environment or another tenant if need be. So you've got a copy of that solution zip file, which is great. And that kind of covers the Power Platform Pipelines preview feature. So similar to the ALM Accelerator, we're going to now unpack it and see how exactly it works. So following our 4 environments as well, we've got a unmanaged solution sitting in our development environment. We go into that solution itself, and in the Power Platform Pipelines feature, we can then deploy directly into QA, do the exact same thing to UAT, and then redeploy and deploy it back into prod. And we can just follow that over and over and over again, because you've seen this literally going from QA, UAT, prod, and just version control straight through it as well. So it's a real simple process as to how it works. To summarize the baselines of the Power Platform preview features, that it's a great built-in ALM process for Power Platform, and it incorporates quite a simple deployment process that allows us to transfer solutions from one environment to another for people that aren't very familiar with ALM processes. What's nice is that it's also got a really nifty reporting tool in the solution itself. And my personal biggest feature is you've got access to the artifact from the solution. What's also great about it is that it is somewhat scalable to a certain extent, because whereas with this ALM Accelerator, you saw we only had our QA test and prod environments. Over here, you can set up as many stages as you want for your pipeline, and you can have various different pipelines as well for various different solutions, which is really convenient. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty and the key takeaways of these pipelines. Looking at the pros first, with the ALM Accelerator, to me, one of the biggest benefits of the ALM Accelerator is that you've got associated DevOps projects. So if you're working with external projects and you've got user stories and you want to track bugs, you can link DevOps projects to a solution and you can manage a really good repository through a structured source control, which is a huge, huge plus. It's also got a really nice predefined ALM process following from a dev to QA to UAT to test. And it's got two very nice front-end applications that allow us to manage deployment processes as well as configure our projects as well, which is also really nifty. It keeps everything in a central location. And it's also really scalable. Again, it's a starter kit, so it's meant for us to use as an infrastructure and a baseline to build our own solutions on top of that. Whereas with the Power Platform pipelines, it's a nice nifty built-in ALM process with the ability to configure multiple stages for a specific pipeline. So you can have as many stages as you want for a deployment pipeline. And you also get two security roles assigned with the Power Platform pipelines feature as well that you can assign to makers and admins. You can also have multiple deployment environments and deployment pipelines for different projects. And you've got a much better structured version control, as you can see. That to me was the bigger picture. Whereas if we look at our cons, with the ALM Accelerator, it was really difficult to set up. Yes, you've got some incredible documentation. It's a real step-by-step guide on how to get started, and you can't go wrong with it. But it takes time, there's trial and error, and you need to ensure that your permissions are aligned, because if you don't have access to a certain feature, you've got to request it. For instance, you want to store DevOps extensions. If you want to share a template project's pipelines with another project, you need to ensure those permissions are all set up. The thing that irritated me was the versioning control. I wanted to keep it as 1.0.0.1, and I went ahead and changed that across all our environments. And also we limited to our 3 development environments, as you saw. So going from dev, we limited to our QA, UAT, and test as a default product, which you can also scale on, hopefully, and add more later on. Also, because it's not built into the Power Platform, it does have active bugs and issues. And because of that, you need to continuously do a manual update with the ALM Accelerator. Whereas with the Power Platform pipelines, one of the downsides is not associated with DevOps projects. You can't really relate it to external projects as well. You've got zero source control over it, and you've got no front-end application to manage your deployments for various solutions. The deployment is managed within the solution itself. So you've got limited scalability is how you can do that. Comparing the two side by side, we've gone down and broken up into a few categories, starting by teams, if you can deploy them across environments, source controls, if they offer object and connections, etc. If you're looking for a big team, you want object connections, you want source control, ALM Accelerators on top there. It's more suitable for pro devs. It's a bit more complex to use and it takes a bit more time to set up, but it accommodates a lot more required features that you'd see in a larger company. Whereas with the Power Platform pipelines, it seems to be targeted more at smaller deployments with more internal projects for citizen developers. So if you were to put me at a roadblock and say you've got left or right, if you wanted to utilize DevOps projects, you wanted to use stuff like user stories, features, bugs, use source controls, and link those user stories to your source control. You were more focused on pro devs using PCFs. You were looking at external customer projects. You had collaborations. ALM Accelerator is the way to go. If you're a small team, you're looking for more internal small projects, you're not familiar with source control, you've got very limited connectors and so forth, and you want to keep things simple, then Power Platform pipelines is your best option, with hopefully moving forward into the ALM Accelerator. Other than that, I've been Nati. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. Check out my profile. I've got some good content on community stuff. Follow me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I'm not that active on Twitter yet. I'm trying to get into it. I'm still figuring out how it works. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.
Great. Thank you so much, Nati. Really interesting stuff there. I need to really check out all this new stuff because I'm still doing it all DevOps ways. So yeah, very informative. Thank you. So does anyone have any questions for Nati before we move on? I can see Jürgen, you got your hand raised?
Yes.
Just wanted to say great. Sorry, did not want to interrupt. Really impressed.
Perfect. We got also Serena. Hello, Serena.
Hi. I was just wondering, when you remove objects from your development environment, will it delete it from the other environments in your managed solution?
I cannot say that I haven't unfortunately tested that yet, but from what I saw with the configuration, you've got the ability to upgrade it, and it should technically do that, yes. But I can
Okay,
double
thank
check
you.
that with the documentation.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and we've also got Matthew hand raised.
Yeah.
Oh, and now it's unraised. Okay, I can't see any other questions in the chat, so I think there will be time for some Q&A at the end if you have got any sort of burning questions. But otherwise, thank you so much, Nati, for presenting.
Thank you for your time. Hope you guys
Okay.
enjoyed.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to take a quick 10-minute comfort break before we move on to the next session. So I'll put a timer on the screen now, and we'll see you all back here in a short while.
You seem to have started a bit of a challenge in the chat, Joe, accidentally.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
Christine called out your timer isn't a power app. So obviously we've challenged her to build a better looking timer in Power Apps.
She's going to have it by the end of the session, do you think?
Well, I would say it's a built-in feature of Windows, and why recreate something when you've already got it there? That is the epitome of using these low-code business application solutions. Use what you've got there already. Sorry,
use someone else's code.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's get back underway then. So very pleased now to hand over to the always amazing Ines Urrutia de Souza. Over to you, Anna.
You're using the feature on LinkedIn, right?
No, that's I've spent many hours, many days studying the exact pronunciations just to get it right for today.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen. There you go. So let me know when you can see my screen.
Looking good.
Okay, great. So what I'm about to present today is not as deep technical as our last presenter, Nati, but I will try my best to do it as engaging and interesting as he did. So yeah, what I'm going to share with you is a bit about Microsoft Viva, and yeah, I hope this brings a little bit of light so you can understand and present this to your customer if this is needed. So first, well, thank you very much, Matt and Joe, for inviting me. I am very pleased to be here. And it's been a long time since I spoke online. Now it seems to be everything back in person. So this is quite nice. So yeah, this is what we're going to speak about. Thank you to the sponsors. Matt already did the introduction, but I wanted to be grateful as well, because at the end of the day, sponsors make our life easier and they provide us with support to travel and to make events. So thank you. So yeah, this is me, Ines Urrutia de Souza, as both of the presenters said very well. I'm a Dynamic 365 HR practice lead. I'm a tour leader for almost everything. You can see that I try to be very supportive with everyone in the community. So if you're new or if you're starting and you need some guidance, just let me know. You have my address there below, and you also have my web, but you can feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter or any other platform. I don't have many more, but just feel free to reach out. I'm going to say just that I'm originally from South America. I'm Uruguayan. It's okay if you don't know where that is. Nobody knows. But yeah, I'm originally from there, and my first language is Spanish. So that's the reason why sometimes I have some lapses. So I need to think in Spanish and translate it to English. So yeah, that's me. That's my current picture. I think I'm gonna change it because once in a month I change the picture. That's the problem that I have. But yeah, welcome and thank you for being here. So what I wanted to share with you today is a bit more of a topic that is cross organization and cross business. So it doesn't matter your background. You are an employee and or you were, or you're a leader, and all the insights that we're going to go through today, I think that they're going to be useful for you to carry them into your organization or into your customers. So we're going to go a bit about employee experience and what that is, because it looks like it's very trendy at the moment and everyone is talking about it. Then we're going to speak a bit about Microsoft Solutions for Human Resources. And then we're going to dive deeper into the concepts of Microsoft Viva. So we're going to go and understand a bit more what that is. Then I'm going to introduce the Viva Explorers. And lastly, we're going to have some Q&As. If you don't have any Q&A, feedback, recommendations of any series or film will be very, very much welcome. So yeah, that's the agenda. Let's start. So employee experience, as you know, is something that has been on the like a hot topic for a while. And the reason is that during pandemic, we had a lot of difficulties with the workforce to keep them engaged. So to keep them, to keep us engaged. It was difficult to handle that situation for everyone, and companies realized the importance of the employee experience. So it was not, I don't think it was something that they were investing a lot until this happened. So basically, the employee experience is something that is not only related with how you feel with the company, but it's also related with everything you experience related to your job. So for example, all your work elements, if you have a crappy chair or a crappy computer, it's going to impact in the way you're working. So basically, work elements such as chair, desks, or elements needed to perform the role are part of the employee experience, as well as the platform that are involved in daily basis, like for example, where you submit your expenses or your timesheets or your leave requests. If they're also terrible, your experience within that side is going to be a bit difficult. Of course, colleagues and boss are something important as well, because this relationship with others, with our coworkers, and with the leadership is something that has a lot of impact. And lastly, the company values and mission and vision and minds of my own, and the cultural fit between both. So as you can see, employee experience is not only giving the employee the first day a backpack with a pencil and a cup. It's much more than that, and it's related not only in the first stages of the relationship, but also across like the employee journey. And the reason why companies fail terribly at this is that they put a lot of attention during the recruitment and the hiring. And once the person is inside the company, they just leave them alone, and they don't care a bit about all these components. So seeing this situation, Microsoft, of course, found an interesting market to help companies thrive. So Microsoft Viva was born, and I'm going to speak a bit more later, but yeah, Microsoft Viva was born to try to to summarize all these challenges into one or maybe more platforms. So this is employee experience. I know all of us have like very good experiences or crappy experiences. I had both. I learned from both. But we always have like a learning, of course, we have learning lessons learned to not make the same mistakes again. So this is employee experience. And I wanted to introduce this concept of Microsoft Loves HR, because I'm trying to make a lot of effort in this and trying to push it really hard. And the reason because of that is that we are having a lot of platforms within the Microsoft community, within the Microsoft ecosystem that are providing solutions for human resources. This means that we are not only using what I always will love, it's Dynamics HR, but we also have Teams, we also have Viva, we also have another couple of solutions I will share shortly that are all focused on helping human resources. So instead of thinking of the platform, I like to think about the challenge of the business and bring along the platforms or the solutions that my customer will use. So because of this, I have this slide that I love, that it's basically sharing what I think it's much more. So my main focus is Dynamics 365 human resources. Of course, we have finance and LinkedIn. These are like the three solutions everyone thinks when you speak about HR, if they have any idea. If not, they will think HR is no longer part of Microsoft platforms. But these are the three main platforms that we have. But also we do have here, where's the PBA? Well, it doesn't matter. But we do have Power Platform. And that means that we can add value to what we already have here in Dynamics HR or finance or LinkedIn with the solutions that Power Platform is providing. And then we have our Viva. I think that one of this is the Power Virtualizations. I'm sorry, I cannot recall from memory too many similar logos, too many similar colors, so it's difficult for me. But yeah, then Microsoft Viva was born, and Microsoft Viva was born just 18 months ago, so it's a newborn. And that is why I try to bring that up, because sometimes people are like, companies are expecting native integrations and HR to be integrated with Viva very like smooth, and well, that's not happening, not now. But I think is the future. But just for you to know, we have, of course, we have Viva and we have Teams. And because of that, it's very good. It's a very good combination. And of course, I'm not even including everything else that we have. So the main talk about today is to speak a bit more about the main thing that I brought today is to speak a bit more about what Viva is, and I'm going to showcase you 5 of the things that 5 of the Viva platforms that we have. Just bear in mind that probably this number will grow because they've been doing that. They've been acquiring tiny like companies, and they rebranded and just embedded in Teams. That's what they did, and I think that was a very good move. So Viva Connections is the way that we are going to help our companies and our workers to access the information about the organization. So you will have a place to share your experience and news and resources that you find interesting. I don't know if this reminds you of any additional platform that we had over there. But yeah, it's pretty much the same, and even the user experience is quite similar. But the idea was to rebrand and put this name in it and make it a bit like modern. So as you can see here, sorry for the bad definition, but as you can see here, we have a like an example of what Viva Connections is. So it's quite interesting, I think, and it reminds me a bit of something we had later before. But yeah, this is what is Viva Connections. So we're going to jump into Viva Insights, and I'm sure that most of you have played around with Viva Insights and you were trying to run away from it, but you don't know how to disable the notifications. I feel you, and I'm sorry. But yeah, Viva Insights was one of the first things that Microsoft released when the pandemic started, or in the middle of the pandemic. I remember Satya introducing the topic and sharing what Insight was capable of and how important it was for us to keep track of our like our time and to meditate after meeting or before, instead of telling everyone to just fuck off. We needed to do this meditation. So yeah, Viva Insight was kind of I think it was the #1 platform within Microsoft Viva to be so interesting and so engaging for people. So basically, Insights is helping people to identify where they can build better habits and insights. And of course, you have the well-being part, and well, everything we have in My Analytics, basically, you can have it now here. So it moved, once again, another platform that moved into the Viva ecosystem. And yeah, one of the things that I loved is this. So they had a partnership with Headspace, and the idea was for you to meditate before, after closing your day. You could do that, and for me at the moment, is sending me a message every time around 6 p.m. Are you ready to grip up? Please review your task for tomorrow. And it's like, okay, it's good, but you need to be aware of the notifications, because sometimes it's too much. Just bear in mind that if you have this installed, so you can have Viva Insights right away, you can install it in your Microsoft Teams right now. You will access not this kind of, you will not access to these entire features. You will have like headspace, you will have how you're feeling and some other stuff, maybe your focus plan as well. But this is like the manager version. So we have an employee version and a manager version. The manager one is paid if I think so, if correctly. If not, we can always check licensing online because I don't know it. And yeah, it's a different experience for the workers and for the leadership, just because it gives a bit more information about the team and how everyone's doing. Just be aware that there is not sharing any like private information. It's just sharing information for your manager to understand that you are burnt out or that you have too many free time, or I don't know, everything in between. So this is basically Viva Insights. You can install it right away. And if you do so, let me know how it goes. Our third platform or program system solution, I don't know. This one, it's called Viva Goals, and it's I think it's my favorite because it gives a very interesting way of keeping track of your OKRs. It overlaps a bit. So if you're familiar with what is it called? I don't remember, but there's another feature within Power BI that it overlaps a bit. So you should be careful, or you should decide whether one or the other you could choose. But just know that you have like overlapping functionality there, overlapping features. It's even look the same. So yeah, that's weird. But the thing is that goals, within goals, what you can do is to define your OKRs, so your objectives and key results you're going to have from those objectives, and share them with the team and involve people. So it's pretty cool because you can see it in like it's very visual and appealing. And it makes people, I think I would like to work with it as an individual because it's pretty clear and the things are very defined. So I'm going to share with you how it looks. So you can see here that we have ship next version of gaming platform by da. So we have, for example, the different tasks that need to be performed, as well as the goals that we need to perform within. And you can see how the all of these items are doing. So, you know, they are behind or in track or at risk. And yeah, you could see the person involved, the last day that this has been like updated. And yeah, the thing is that you will define all your levels and you will define all your OKRs. Also, the good thing is that if you're lacking on inspiration and you do want to implement this within your company, there are hundreds of, well, not hundreds, like maybe 10 or 12 or 15 templates you could use, and it's going to load automatically. You just need to fill in the responsibles, and that's it. I expect a lot of updating and new things coming here, because I think that this is the one. Maybe the other Viva goals are a bit more hippie, like, and this one actually has some results. So because it has results, it has impact in the organization. It's like a tangible impact in the organization, and because of that, it is important. So I think this is the one that's going to grow quickly. It has some things that I don't really like. So for example, this status, you just need to like drop down and select if you're behind or on track. Just like you do in Planner, and I don't really love that. I expect that to change a bit, but you know, the products are very young and they're developing, and I have a lot of expectation on this to grow. So this is my favorite. As you can see, I'm very passionate about Viva goals. And then we have Viva Learning. So Viva Learning is quite an interesting one. You can also have that in your Teams right away. So you will have, if you install it right now, you don't need to pay for everything. You have it already involved, like already included in your Office 365, Microsoft 365, or whatever it's called this week. You can access Microsoft Learn and LinkedIn Learn. So the idea is, if you are using the free version, you can access to the top 200 courses in LinkedIn, and you can access to Microsoft Learn as well. So even if you are not willing to invest because you don't want to pay for Viva Learning, you can access a lot of content. And the cool thing is that there's a lot of things around there very interesting. So I consume a lot of LinkedIn courses, and I think they're very good. So having the ability to learn within Microsoft Teams or within Microsoft Teams, just it's very interesting. So you could do that for, as mentioned, for LinkedIn and for Microsoft Learn. So, well, Microsoft Learn, you could open a different tab, but if you don't have LinkedIn Learning, you can just consume the content within Microsoft Teams. So another feature that is really cool about Viva Learning is that you can share or recommend learning content to workers, colleagues, and even if you're a manager, you can also suggest, like kindly suggest, and Joey knows this word, like you can kindly suggest people to do or perform or execute a learning path, and you can track the advancement of that course. So here's a bit of how it looks. Sorry for the terrible quality of the pictures, but here's like an overview of how it looks. You can see that based on the content you consume, you will have some recommendations and the trends on your company. So you can consume either the things that you want and the things that the system thinks you are interested in, as well as the trending on your company. So as you can see here, we have LinkedIn. Well, we have some other providers as well, because we assume this company has some other providers of learning courses, and we also have Microsoft, but just see that LinkedIn is all over the place. Great. Last, we have Viva Topics. Viva Topics is quite interesting. I expect this to be a bit more interesting, but actually it's quite good. For example, picture that you join a company, and of course you start working in a project, and the project is halfway. So that means that you are not aware of all the information and all the things that happened in the past within that project. So that is the business case or the business process that Viva Topics wants to solve. So let's picture that situation. If I join a company and I have no idea what happened, where are the notes, the meeting minutes, or anything that happened, FDDs, SDDs, whatever, Viva Topics, what does is gathers all that information, the content, the people, the expertise, everything related to a specific project, and then it provides that information to the users, so you can consume that information. So the thing is that for me, that I don't know your experience, but for me, I always landed in projects halfway done. So it was quite challenging to understand like the scope, or who was like the stakeholders and stuff. So I think that Viva Topics is quite nice in that way. So this is how Viva Topics looks. And you can have here, for example, well, in this case, we have some other some content related to updates or news. But you can also have, for example, instead of this title, you could have, for example, Project Contoso, and you can have it there and access all the information that is there and everything that is related to it. I think this is a very good solution. Of course, my favorite is Viva Goals, as I already mentioned. But this one is also good because you can gather all the information that is usually spread in local folders. You can just gather everything here and make everyone's life easier. So I think I spoke really fast, but I wanted to share with you this. It's very important for you to know Viva Explorers. I'm not the expert of Viva. I love it. I've been working with the Viva Explorers a lot, and I like to bring my vision on employee experience and human resources within this platform. But there are a lot of great people out there that they're creating amazing content that you should reach out. Actually, we have a web that is called Viva Explorers, where you can find like the links for everyone. And here we have, for example, Zoe Wilson, and we have a, I don't know, which one? This is Sarah Fenna. And then we have a Kevin. I think Kevin is a transformer. And of course, the Viva Aviator, it's myself. But we have a lot of people. We are all MVPs. Most of them are MVPs on Office apps, and some of us are business apps, but we try to do this and we try to share content about Viva, and there are very cool things that we did. So yeah, just for you to know to check them out, check us out. And there's a lot of people there creating really good content. So it depends on what you want to do. We have more technical content, or business, or focused on, for example, teams, or more in one of the platforms within Viva. So you can always check us out, and yeah, feel free to reach out. Actually, I'm realizing that I love my drawing. It's very good. Okay. That's it. So I don't know if you have any questions. I haven't read the chat because I felt like I was going to get distracted very easily. But if you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, or any flavor of Ben and Jerry's I should try, just please raise your voice.
Anna, that was awesome. I know I was the one that asked you, can you do something on Viva, because I have no idea what Viva is. That kind of solidified for me that I really had no idea what Viva is, because it's multiple things. I think I do have a question about, is it Viva Topics? So I like you get like thrown into the middle of a project that's partway done and everything else. I take it it's configurable then, like you configure, right, this is for this project, like this is for this project, or this is things that you have access to, or something like that?
Yeah, so basically the idea is it's not going to work by itself. So you will need to guide a bit and set up some stuff. So it's not magic. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
My current go-to is Delve. I use Delve to find all the documentation, and then even then I still miss things. If this can put everything in a nice neat like pile of like, this is a bunch of stuff, go. That's exactly what I need. So no, that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Damien, do you have a question?
A kind of a question, possibly a bit more of an observation. I just did put in the chat there. We've fairly recently, so just before Christmas, set the AI running for Viva Topics, and it is absolutely superb. And what you're talking about there, Matt, in terms of letting people know stuff in the most general terms, is so easily done with Viva Topics. It's gone off. It trawls every SharePoint site that you want it to. We've done it for every SharePoint site in our organization. And if, for example, you're being inducted onto a project, or you touched on HR a little bit earlier on, any new joiners, just the fact that if you've got a topics license, hashtagging things in chats makes it a topic card. So we've had a new joiner. I just sent them a Teams message with about 15 topic cards in, and said, if you get to grips with those, they're your first kind of ports of call. They've gone off and found the SharePoint sites, the resources, the presentations, just from kind of 15 topic cards. So yeah, it's you say it's not magic. I just think it is mind blowing, and I have to say it's I think as good a kind of as much as you can present it, it's when you use it, it's kind of like this. It's fantastic when you see it running with your own data. and you kind of see what the AI has done and what it's picked up on. You're right, it does need a bit of configuration, but I've been super impressed with it. So no, and I know more about that one from being exposed to it than possibly some of the others, but no, really enjoyed the presentation. It's good to see all the bits of it that I've not really seen yet, and hope I'll be as kind of mind blown with everything else as well. So no, really great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the feedback. All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep my details here on the screen until Matt tells me to just stop sharing. So I've seen a lot of things going on in the chat. It's quite interesting, Christine. You did a very good job.
I was joking, but Christine absolutely smashed it and made a better looking timer inside of 30 minutes. So yeah, if does anyone else have any questions for Anna? I did put the Viva Explorers link into the chat, so you can go and check out that site, check out all the different Viva Explorers, and get connected with everyone if you want to learn more about Viva.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing, but thank you, everyone. It's been lovely to present. And yeah, thank you for making my day much, much better.
Oh, well, I think you made our day better. Absolutely. It was really great to have you talk on this. And it was me like, hi, Anna, can you do this for me, please?
Of course. That's, yeah.
Let's share my screen. So I think, Joe, I think you owe Christine 50 quid. That's how it works, right?
The 50 quid for the listing all the product names. That was the agreement.
You laid down the challenge by putting a non-power app, timer on the screen, and I mean, it may have accidentally been me that challenged Christine there, but we'll just pretend it was you.
Okay. All right, Christine. Deep fried Mars bar at Scottish Summit 2023. How about
deep
that?
fried Mars bars for everyone. You get a Mars bar, and you get a Mars bar. We'll throw in the deep fry. So I want to say a big thank you. I want to say a big thank you to both our presenters, Nati Turtledove and Ines Urrutia de Souza. I'll get it one of these days. These are awesome presentations, and they've given up their free time to present these things to us. So I really want to thank both the presenters for these. These are excellent topics. I think, as you can see from the chat and as you can see from everything, people love these topics. So a big thank you to both of you for presenting tonight, and a big thank you to everyone else that attended. We really love putting on events. We really love getting speakers and community members together, sharing the knowledge and just hanging out. So I do appreciate everyone that joined here today. I do have a feedback form, and what I meant to do is I meant to copy this feedback link into the chat, and I absolutely forgot. So let's do that very quickly. Or there is a QR code. If you could please give us some feedback on the presenters and feedback on the UG itself. We really do appreciate it. Feedback helps us do more events, helps us understand what it is you want to see, and helps the presenters know what went great and maybe what things they can improve on. But honestly, I think you guys smashed it tonight, so we really appreciate that. Yeah, if anyone could fill out feedback forms, we really would appreciate it. But more than anything, we appreciate everyone here tonight. So thank you all for coming. Feel free to stick around and chat for a bit if you want. I'm going to go put my son down to bed. So I will stop recording here, and we can like trash everything now and just say how rubbish Microsoft